Hey, everybody, welcome to Grilling at the Green here in Portland on AM 860 and in Seattle and stations across the country, and also the Golf News Network on iHeart. How's your game? I hope you're having a good week in the golf world. This segment of Grilling at the Green is brought to you by Painted Hills Natural Beef, beef the way nature intended, and also the Oregon Crab Commission from sea to plate. If you've never had any of the Dungeness crab that we have out here in the Pacific Northwest, I'll tell you, you're really missing something. So check it out. Go to Oregon Crab Commission and see where see where you can find some crab in an area next and near you. Well, our guest today is Ryan McCray. He's president of Links and Leisure Clothing out of Southwestern Washington. It's a new company. It's had a little history getting started, and Ryan is a very tenacious guy, and he's made it happen. And I met him at the Portland Golf Show just by chance, but he's got a very interesting story. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's nice to be with you.
It's nice to be with you. I got to tell you, I went to your website and I looked at the different shirts and stuff you have there. I like them. They're fun. They're a lot of fun. But coming from a family that had a retail store for years, I know the retail business, the wholesale business, the manufacturing business can all be very trying. So would you share with us how you got started in this and what made you do it?
Oh, oh, that's a long one, Jeff, but I'll try my best. The whole story of vintage golf tees goes back about 25 years, actually, when I first had the idea. I was in New York working at a club out there, and just had an idea that there should be a golf company that just focused on, high-end vintage cool golf t-shirts. And at the time, there was nothing like it. It took a number of years to give it my first attempt. So now we're looking about the 2005, 2006 era. Got some shirts made up, swinger, foreplay, just kind of some tongue-in-cheek type stuff. But the golf industry wasn't really ready for golf t-shirts at the time. Went back to working the green grass stuff after, essentially falling flat on my face with that first attempt. And a number of years go by, and some of the other larger companies had started to sell golf t-shirts, and they kind of opened that door that I was just banging on for so many years. And I thought I'd give it another shot. I thought I still had something to offer the industry. So I moved back here to the Northwest a number of years ago, and have been all in ever since. So it's been a battle, but it's been a long one as well.
You were originally from out here?
Originally from Vancouver, Washington. Yes.
Good. Good for you. Like I said in kind of the opening there, that it is tough. I mean, if nobody's been in the retail business, that's one thing to find out how tough it is. But if you're starting a business that ultimately ends up on the consumer shelf, that's even harder. You've got to bang on a lot of doors, and a lot of them don't even open up enough for you to say hello. They just close on you. So how much determination has it taken you to get this far? I mean, it's got to be a huge amount.
Yeah, yes, I would say that's true. It definitely hasn't been easy. You look for kind of little wins here and there, whether it's a small driving range shop trying your stuff out, and then you get the golf course here and there. Maybe you get a tournament. But definitely, it's definitely very challenging. It's the space, the golf industry, apparel space is pretty saturated, and we see new companies popping up seemingly every day. But I think what keeps me going more than anything is that I love cool vintage golf t-shirts. That's really the number one. So it's not so much about doing millions in sales. However, that would be nice, but it's more about creating a cool t-shirt that will change somebody's day, maybe change the perception of somebody's perception about the game that may see this t-shirt out there in the wild. So more than anything, Jeff, I'm just trying to showcase the game in a different light, um, uh, but an accurate light as well. So that's really what it comes down to for me. It's not about the money. It's really just about creating a good golf visual for people, telling a story out there in the streets as opposed to just the green grass. Excuse me. And so that's just kind of what keeps me going. But back to your point, as far as how tough retail is, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I'll say that.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Um, your sayings, you know, they're fun things like right behind you, you've got one from the original Swinger Society. You come up with all those, or you have a group of friends that you bounce stuff off of, or how do usually people can come up with one or two good fun things to say when they're doing something like this. And then after that, it can be a struggle to make it so it meets all the criteria. It's catchy, it's fun, it's tongue in cheek. It's not too wordy so that you have to have a dictionary to read it, that type of thing. How do you go through that process?
Uh, that's a good question. I will say, first part of it is I come up with most of the sayings or slogans myself. A lot of the times it's a spin off of something else. You'll find a lot of music type references in both the verbiage and design that I use. I definitely am not short on friends' suggestions as far as things I should do. Some of the times they make the final cuts, sometimes they don't. But that's one of the things too, that with as much as I put into these t-shirts, I don't want to jinx myself, but it's almost like I have a bottomless well. And they come to me on the daily. Now by the time I actually get them designed and into production, that sometimes it happens really quick, sometimes it takes I may be kicking around an idea for a year or two before I throw it on a shirt. But they really do kind of come to me daily. And I do have kind of a checkpoint as far as, or I should say a checklist as far as, I want the message to be this, I want it to be understood by this, and I want it to capture this. So yeah, that's a good question, Jeff. It's a tough one to answer, but I come up with the majority of it on my own. Again, not taking away any suggestions that other people have made that have been utilized, but I got countless more for the future, and I'm looking forward to bringing those to print as well.
Yeah, I've got a lot of friends that always have a lot of suggestions. Um, Not so much on the I can't talk today, Ryan. Sorry.
Implementation, yeah, no,
Implementation.
a,
Sorry.
lo- a lot of times that's left out, I find.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you know what you should do? You should do this, and then they go away, and you're like, well, there may be some merit to that, but tell me more, and they don't have more. They just have
Right.
the slug line or something, and then off you go.
Yep.
That's really tough. Hey, we're going to take a break. We're going to be back with Ryan McCray from Links and Leisure. Like I said at the top of the show, I met Ryan at the Portland Golf Show. Just kind of walked into each other and heard his story a little bit there and invited him on the show. And I think this is a good show for people that have a lot of ideas, especially in the golf world, but how they get them implemented and out there, now that's a different story. So Ryan and I will be back in just a minute. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green. I'm JT. You can find us on all the social media platforms. If it's not under the name of the show, it's under my name, because we have some kind of duplicate stuff out there just because people have a tough time, I think, navigating that. Or you can, excuse me. It's spring, Ryan. It's my allergies. I'm 60 years old and I still got allergies. That bugs the hell out of me. Anyway, you can email us at just info@grillingatthegreen.com. You can go to the website and send us a message. You can find us, like I said, on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. So we're talking with Ryan McCray today from Links and Leisure. And Ryan, this is the part of the show where you've been around. You've worked in the golf industry a while. And I always ask our guests to do a golf trip travel tip. And a lot of them come up with stuff like, make sure your clubs are secure or whatever like that. But if you've traveled back and forth across the country and maybe across the pond, I don't know, we'll probably find out here. What would be your travel tip for people?
Oh, I definitely haven't made it across the pond yet. I hope to someday, but I have made my way around the country pretty good. Um, you know, I gosh, there's probably a lot of things that you could point to. But I would say if you're gonna play golf on a travel to play golf, I really think it would come down to the company that you're out there with. I think everybody's going to have a different, use this sort of travel bag or pack your clubs this way or play this kind of golf course or, go here this time to this location at this part of the year. But, I'm really just a believer of golf kind of comes down to your company, especially if you're, if you're going with the boys. That's kind of the secret for me, whether it's hate to use the word dog track, but I think it's something that everybody would understand. But whether you're playing a dog track or a high-end resort or private golf course, I would prefer good company over the level of golf course it is. So I think if you're traveling, just make it a point to travel or play with the people that you would most want to travel or play with. That would, I don't know if that answers the question, Jeff.
Well,
but
actually, it does.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, actually, it does. I've always thought it's better to go out and have fun, enjoy the day, have a few laughs, especially laugh at yourself if you play at the level I do, which is hysterical sometimes. And do that than try to be too serious. There's a reason those guys and gals that play on those elite tours, the LPGA, the PGA, the Korn Ferry, Epson, all those, they got there because they play golf, 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, practice in the rain and all that. And most of us don't want to do that. So I think your tip there is really good. Also, we'd like to thank Weston Kia in Gresham, Oregon, Oregon's #1 Kia dealer, for supporting this show and especially the golf trip travel tips. I should have written that. You talk about sayings and stuff for your shirts. I could have written that one a little easier instead of golf trip travel tips. I can't say that like 3 times very fast.
I'll get it on a shirt for you, Jeff, and we'll clean it up a little bit.
Okay, very good. Are these shirts made? I mean, the printing and stuff, are they done locally here in the Northwest, or where's it done at?
Yeah, so everything is from start to finish made in the USA. The shirts are made here in the USA, and then all the shirts are designed and hand printed here in Vancouver, Washington. So, yep, it is completely local.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So, Ryan, when you've been out there pitching golf shops, and I don't know about you, but in my area where I live, which is south of Portland, a lot of the pro shops are getting a bit smaller. They're condensing on what they're keeping in the shop because the courses have found, especially the nicer ones, that they make more money on food and beverage, and little banquets and things like that. And also I think they've realized that they don't particularly want to compete with, the big online Golf Galaxy, Dick's Sporting Goods, Carl's Golfland, those types of things. Because those guys are, they have storefronts, but they're a huge warehouse type thing where they can just ship out clubs and shoes and shirts and what have you. So given that, is it tough to get shelf space, as it were, in the pro shops?
It is. And to to your point there, Jeff, that's exactly what's these golf shops are going through. They're competing with the entire online e-commerce. So a lot of times it doesn't make sense for them to go real deep into product. Hard goods specifically, you'll see quite a bit of hard good inventory at your private clubs still, but your public golf courses, it's very hit or miss. What I've found with a new brand and being a t-shirt, number one, being a t-shirt, there's a lot of clubs and courses that are still hesitant to bring a t-shirt in. It blows my mind a little bit, but well, a lot. It blows my mind, but I think a lot of the buyers and merchandisers are under the have the thought that somebody's going to think they can play golf in this t-shirt if you sell it in the golf shop, and I don't think. Well, let me back up a little bit. That happens quite a bit.
Okay.
So the number one hesitancy that I get is the fact that it's a t-shirt. It is becoming more widely accepted as a product in the golf shop, and Jeff, I would like to point out as well. I don't sell t-shirts to try to change the expected attire of the game. I very much believe in that, and that's one of the fun things about the game is you dress up and you look good. A lot of times you'll dress nicer for golf than you will for work. Um,
That's true.
so I'm very much a fan of that, and so I'm not trying to change any of that. But the t-shirt is a product that, just as though if you're a Seahawks fan or a Blazer fan, you may wear a jersey or a t-shirt to the grocery store or just on your day to day. So that's what that's what the product is meant for. But then you couple that with, it's got a great price point. It's a great impulse buy for these golf shops to offer their members or customers. But there is some kind of, I don't want to say old school thinking, because I think that sounds too derogatory, but it is a product that's still very the acceptance is not as high as I think it should be. But when we do get in the golf shops, they absolutely fly off of the shelves. But that original convincing is difficult, again, based on the acceptance of a t-shirt, whether or not the customer think it's acceptable to be worn on the golf course. I don't think there's many people that actually think that, but it is a
Yeah,
perception of the merchandisers and buyers that are looking to take on the t-shirt line.
absolutely. We're going to take another break. I'm going to be back with Ryan McCray from Links and Leisure. Um, Look at his website. We'll get to that here shortly, but we'll get to that and have some fun with this. You're listening to Grilling at the Green on the iHeart Radio Network. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green. I'm JT, today with Ryan McCray. Would like to again thank Painted Hills Natural Beef the way nature intended. Speaking of websites, you can go to paintedhillsbeef.com. You can order some of their stuff online there. And if you put in the code BBQ Nation, that's my other show. I think they give you a discount like 15%. And also Grilly Grills, the versatility of outdoor cooking with a complete line of gas, pellet, and charcoal grills. Go to grillygrills.com. We use those on the show, on the TV version of this. And Pig Powder, my radio wife, Leanne Whippen, that's her family's brand of rubs. So go to pigpowder.com. We're talking with Ryan McCray today from Links and Leisure. You know what you were talking about in the last segment, Ryan? If you go to Yellowstone, if you go to the Jack Daniels barbecue championship, if you go to the Kentucky Derby, they all have t-shirts. Now, nobody expects you to wear, especially like at the Derby, if you were a jockey, you're not going to wear that when you're riding the horse. You're not going to wear those shirts. They're fun. And you were kind of talking, you alluded to, but I'll say this, golf sometimes has a stodgy image. old guys smoking cigars at the end of the day, drinking snifters of brandy, saying, "Yes, Robert, you did this right." It's not that. It's a fun game. It's hard. It's hard as hell, but it's fun. And so why not have some fun and let people know you are a golfer with absolutely no future as a professional out there, to do that. So I think that's something that through time, I think that will come.
I certainly hope so. And you touched on an interesting point there as well, in that I always kind of describe it as those looking in on the game from, we'll say, outside of the fence, so to speak. They have a certain perception of the game, and it most often doesn't align with actually what the game is. Now, historically, it has been more of an elitist type of a game. It is expensive, so it's only natural that it's going to flourish within the affluent community. That being said, though, the game itself is for everyone. It's
Yeah.
what actually, what the game is. It, I struggle to find the word now, but it's very often the perception of the game and what the game actually is are not aligned.
Right.
And that's very much something that I'm trying to address with these t-shirts. So it's very much a goal. If somebody's wearing one of our house brand tees out in public, and it portrays the game in X way, that somebody who sees it out there in public may have previously had a perception of the game that hopefully we can change a little bit, and try to get them to maybe inquire about it. Perfect scenarios where they actually feel more comfortable and go give the game a try themselves. But yes, you're right. The game itself is not often as it is perceived, and that's very much what I'm trying to address. Excuse me.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be all people actually have to do is to watch on TV um, one of the PGA tournaments or the LPGA tournaments, not a major, but just a regular whatever's on the schedule that week. And if it's nice weather, don't look at the golfers, look at the crowd. And they're there in shorts and t-shirts, and sometimes, they've got goofy hats on, and they're supporting a particular player. It doesn't matter. But my point is those are very casual, leisurely apparel and attitude of the folks that are there because they're just there to enjoy it. So I think that sometimes people can't get beyond the players, and they need to look at the crowd because the crowd is having a good time. The players are working. The crowd is having a good time. And I think if we can cross that bridge, then people would be more receptive to it, especially golf shots. Because good God, if you get online and you go to the USGA or any of those, they all have long sleeve t-shirts or Henleys or something, or short online to buy for an event. They're not all collared shirts that are required when you play. So, like I said, I think it's coming, but my advice to people would be to look at the crowd.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point there, Jeff. It's there's there's so many types of people that play golf from every walks of life, but they're able to connect on the game itself. It's one of the few things in this world that we're all on the same side. So I think the more people understand that, the easier it'll make for people to actually give the game a shot. But like I said, it's we're all chasing par here. We're all competing against the golf course here. Now, sure, there's the scenarios where you're playing an event and you have some opponents or whatnot. But even in that scenario, you're still playing the golf course. So that's one thing that unites all players across all spectrums.
Well, I wanted to also jump in here, Ryan, with you're not just a t-shirt guy. You work in the golf industry. You've worked in pro shops. You've worked, you're a assistant pro and those types of things. Would you share that with our audience so they know that you're just not some guy that's standing on the corner with a t-shirt line hanging on a rack?
Well, I think golf pro flunky is the term you're looking for there, Jeff. That's probably the best way to describe it. But yeah, so outside of golf t-shirts, my entire working career has been in the industry in some capacity, whether it's a pro, an assistant pro, instruction, caddy. You know, I've kind of touched all the bases within the industry. But golf pro flunky is probably the umbrella term that I would use for that. Of course, had aspirations growing up to play competitively, but I learned early on that 74 wasn't going to be good enough to make a living at it. And to make matters worse, I just shot 81. So you know, it's
on the front nine or what?
yeah. I made it around all 18 for that 81, but
okay.
but I realized pretty early, as much as I love the game, it wasn't going to be a career that I could make money doing, other than the course management side of things. But yeah, so I had nearly 20 years in green grass operations of miscellaneous responsibilities, we'll say.
It's interesting. I come from my background, and no need to tell the listeners, they've heard it enough, but was from a completely different sport. But that's how I made my living. Okay. What's interesting to me is that all of the people, they're churning out a lot of potential golf course superintendents, assistant pros, so on. I mean, it's an industry, and there's a lot of golf courses, and there's a lot of clubs, and we do that in my other life, same thing. And then you always hear that people say, well, and you didn't say this, is why I bring it up. Well, I was going through here, but when I got done, I wasn't good enough to make it on the tour, so I thought I would get into broadcasting. It's kind of like, being a jockey. Only so many people can make that height weight requirement, and then even fewer have enough to actually get on a microphone and have good presence. And so when you're saying flunky, I think of that as very well rounded. A friend of mine once called it
Thank you.
Very well seasoned, like that, because you also,
thank you.
Yeah, there's only so many head pro jobs. There's only so many assistant pro jobs out there. You know what I mean? And so I think you to be given kudos for creating this and saying, I'm still in the golf world, but I see something different. That's actually kind of how I started my radio career. Was I saw something different and did that that was a long time ago, but I saw an opening and I went for it. So good for you, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's funny too, Jeff, just to touch on that real quick, as far as seeing an opening. I didn't know what else I was going to do. This is, the game of golf and the golf industry. It's, it's my passion. So I really never had a plan B. It was going to be somewhere within the industry. I felt like I could, make the industry or add a positive, I should say, in whatever capacity or level. That's debatable for sure, but I always wanted to contribute to the game. And and I'd like to think that most of the people that get into the industry are doing it for that reason.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that there may be some selfish reasons in there as well. But I think what initially drives all of the aspiring industry professionals to do it is to contribute to the game itself, and to grow it, expand it, change it, hopefully for the better. That's kind of where I'm coming from. Again, I'm still part of the industry. I love the industry. I got several friends that I went to college with that stayed with the green grass side, and they're head pros and instructors all over the country. Excuse me. And they're loving what they're doing as well. So it's been fun for me to see them advance through the career, and we took different paths, but it's always fun when our paths cross each other again. And so that's kind of why I got into it, why I think the other guys have gotten into it, and hopefully they're kind of chasing that
Oh yeah,
dream that they had as well.
chasing the dream. We got to take another break before David yells at me. But we'll be right back with Ryan McCray from Links and Leisure here on Grilling at the Green. Stay with us. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green. We're talking with Ryan McCray from Links and Leisure up in Vancouver, Washington today. We would like to thank Hammerstall Knives and Heritage Cookware. Ryan's looking at me like, why are you talking about all this food stuff? Well, we converted this show. Some of the principal photography is done into a TV show that is going to be on the Golf Newsnet television channels on several platforms. So, and they're linear TV. It's not just streaming stuff like on YouTube. No, this is actual golf channels. There's going to be multiple shows on these channels, and you can watch it. So that's why, Ryan, I'm talking about this.
You're just making me hungry, Jeff. That's all. That's all you're doing there.
Anyway, we Hammerstall Knives and Heritage Cookware. We use them on the TV shows. I recommend them. You can go to Heritage Steel US and get your Hammerstall or your Heritage Cookware there. And so we're talking with Ryan McCray from Links and Leisure. What's been your biggest challenge besides we talked about it earlier, besides getting over the stodginess, but logistically and supply chain wise, and that with big problems with that the last few years kind of touched everybody. How did that affect you, if at all?
Funny you should say that, because actually when others were being affected by the supply chain, it actually opened a lot of doors for Links and Leisure. Our model is set up as such that using products made here in the US, we were good, so to speak, throughout the supply chain problems that a lot of the other companies, they couldn't get product. And so a lot of golf courses turned to us because we were able to get product being sourced here in the US.
Sure.
So, and I don't know if that's something that I thought through at the beginning as much as it was something that just coincidentally happened for us. But that actually opened up a lot of accounts for us when they couldn't get products from some of their other companies or providers, and they were left with no other choice. So however it happens, Jeff, I'll take it.
Sure.
Even if it's left for them to just because they have no other choice. But that actually worked out pretty well for us in that sense. But as far as the question of what's been the biggest challenge, the whole thing's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's just the entire thing, from convincing somebody to give you a shot, and then what we do with the country clubs, that's the majority of the time that's custom design. So you go back and forth with customers and you put these designs together, and that's a process in itself. And then once you agree on a design, and then you got print, production, and fulfillment. So the entire process is definitely a challenge. But if I had to put my finger on one, I would say the challenge, I would say, is the personal challenge. It's 7 days a week. It's nearly 24 hours a day. I say that with some exaggeration there, of course,
Sure.
but the relationships that you have with people on your personal relationships, I'd say that's been the biggest challenge, meaning there's not a whole lot of time left for personal relationships at the end of the day, and so that strains a lot of them, not in some sort
Yeah.
a mean sort of way, but it's emotionally exhausting, and it beats me up, but it beats up those relationships I have as well, and that's I'd say that's number one. And I don't know if that's maybe what you were asking or thinking there, but by far that's been the biggest challenge for me. Whether it's girlfriend relationships that fall apart because of it, or X or Y, but just the relationships that you have is I've found to be the biggest challenge, and they always seem to be put on the back burner. And you can only take so much of that. They can only take so much of that. So I would say that's kind of the biggest challenge, of course.
I'm going to leave us with this and we'll pick this up in the after hour segment, Ryan. But what you touched on there, um, being in the media business, I talk to people all the time. And then there's the sales aspect of it that we have to deal with. But I think overall, in general, I don't care what your business is, if you don't develop personal relationships, maybe not with the consumer itself, the ultimate consumer of your product, but the people that are going to carry your product or distribute your product or what have you, or support your product in some way. Um, I see a lot of younger folks. I'm dating myself again here, so forgive me, but I see a lot of younger folks that
Attaboy.
work in the media business, and the golf business. They think everything is done online. We'll send them an email, and if they don't, they move on. It's like, this is a good company. We should try to develop a relationship with them. It'll last 10, 20 years or more if you do it the right way. Instead of just, here, you want to buy our stuff? Here's an email. Go to this link. I mean, we all get hundreds of those in our inbox every day. So I think in business, some of the old tried and true ways are the best. So I think that. Ryan, how can people find you? What's a
They
website
can
and stuff?
linksandleisure.com. So that's linksandleisure.com. And or Ryan at linksandleisure.com.
Okay, very good. Ryan McCray, folks, from Links and Leisure. Ryan's going to stick around for after hours. He's not been put through that Torquemada horror chamber yet, but he soon will be. And we will be back next week. We've got some other cool people coming up. We've got Robert from Squares Golf Shoes coming up, and we've got gosh, I forgot his name. Millington, who just bought the Ben Hogan company to add to his golf brands group. So we've got those guys coming up in a couple of weeks, and we've got some more players coming up after that. So, Ryan, thank you very much. Stick around for after hours, folks. We'll be back next week with another edition of Grilling at the Green. Go out there, play some golf, take care, and most of all, be kind. Hey everybody, welcome back to After Hours on Grilling at the Green. I'm JT, along with Ryan McCray today from Links and Leisure T-shirts. So let's start with some fun stuff, and then we'll get back to some serious stuff, okay? You up for
Let's do
that?
it.
All
Yeah,
right.
let's do
All
it.
right. All right. If we could put your golf skills to music, what would the music be?
Oh, Highway to Hell. How's that?
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah, I've been there. If you could play a round of golf with one of your golfing heroes, who would it be, Ryan?
um, I mean, I'd like to tee it up with my old man one more time. He passed a number of years ago, but I think if I had one round of golf to play, it'd probably be teed up with him again.
Cool. Um, If you were to dine with a historical figure, who would it be and what would be on the menu?
Oh gosh. Oh, Jeff, that is deep. Um, gosh, I give me a Abraham Lincoln, George Washington,
Yeah,
and give me just a nice
there you go.
hamburger and a beer, and just cut up a little bit.
Sure,
you know,
sure. Um, if we declared Ryan McCray supreme leader of golf for one day, just one day, and whatever you decreed was so, it had to happen. What would you decree as supreme ruler of golf?
bring a beginner to golf day. That without question. So a free golf day for someone who's never golfed before. I would issue that across the land. Everybody take a beginner to golf that day.
I think that's a great idea, man. Absolutely. You remember the first time you ever picked up the sticks?
I do. I do. I hated it.
Did you?
I absolutely hated it. Yep.
Um, if you could get a lesson, I'm not saying you need one, but if you could get a lesson from a touring pro or a retired touring pro, who might that be?
I'd probably go with Mac O'Grady.
Yeah.
If I had an afternoon to spend with instruction, I'd choose Mac O'Grady.
Okay. And why?
Well, his scientific approach to the game makes sense to me as far as moving the golf club within the golf swing, and just everything that he's ever said or written is just it's. I've been able to understand it. It makes sense to me. It's systematic, meaning you can apply that across different golfers, body types, skill levels, and it would still hold up.
Do you think this isn't in my list of questions, but sometimes we cover this, Ryan? Do you think that there is a big kind of dichotomy, if you will, in golf instruction, especially one of my favorite things to say is look at one of the golf magazines over a period of, 3 or 4 issues, and they might have 4 or 5 people talking about the same thing. Maybe it's your short game, maybe it's pitching or putting or something like that. And if you read them, it kind of makes sense. If you read one particular article, it kind of makes sense to most people. But if you read all 5 articles, then you're scratching your head going, what do I do here? How do we kind
Yeah.
of clarify that a little bit? I mean, there's no one perfect way, regardless of what people say, because people are built different. They've got different physical capabilities and all that. But sometimes I think we get a little so far off in the weeds that we run the beginning golfer, the new golfers, away. They can't understand it.
The great question. Yes, yes, and yes to all your points there. I think a lot of the times, golf instruction, whether it's in print or on YouTube or social media channels, a lot of the instruction or tips or however you want to refer to them, I think a lot of it is good, viable information. But how somebody interprets that information and then tries to apply it to themselves within their own understanding of it, I think a lot of it gets lost in that sense. So wait forward. Okay, well, they may the student or the reader may think their weight is forward, but maybe it's not really forward, or maybe they're getting it forward in the wrong way. So I think there's a lot lost in translation there. But kind of to that point, with beginners kind of getting off on the wrong track, I think a lot of people start with golf instruction. They think that before you can play the game, you got to go golf lessons. And I don't necessarily think that's true. I think go out and play, hit a bunch of golf balls, go have fun with it, develop some sort of pattern. Um, and then once you have that pattern set, then you can actually address,
Yeah.
within with the instructor, how to make things a little bit better, or a little more efficient. But if you get off to a start where it's all these things that you're doing wrong, I don't see that as something productive, that's gonna get somebody to follow the game, because you're starting out with all these negatives. There's plenty of time to fix things as you go along, and you're going to spend your whole life trying to do so, if we're honest. um but I really have always felt that golf instruction is great, but don't take it on too early. Learn how to conduct yourself on the golf course. There's other people out there. The golf course is kind of society in a in a condensed version. And if you learn, whether you hit it good or bad out there, but I think if you learn how to conduct yourself out there a number of times, I think you're going to be far better off than getting into instruction too early.
I'll tell you a little secret. I did not have a golf lesson, a formal lesson. I'd been playing golf for 30 years. Not very well, but I had been playing that long. And then finally, Bruce Furman and I got together at Langdon Farms. Bruce is a great guy,
Mm-hmm.
a really good instructor. We're close to the same age, and he started working with me. And I've had a couple lessons from some other people, and they were very, very good instructors. But for the type of golf I play and the fun I have with it, I never saw the need for a lesson because I could hit the ball, and I could putt pretty well. Uh, Short game, that's probably, I think, where people probably maybe need the most help, in my view. But I could be wrong there. But anyway, yeah, I think get out and play, start swinging that club, and
So, Jeff, you
make.
mind if I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So do you wish you had maybe taken golf lessons earlier, or like what's how would you evaluate your process, or kind of road that you've traveled in golf? Where did you maybe make some mistakes with, whether it's starting too late, or getting instruction too late, or trying some instruction that didn't work? I mean, it's kind of an open question
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. I think, well, I started playing when I was sixth grade, something like that.
Okay.
Found some old clubs in the storeroom my brother left. Um, and a very few golf balls. So we lived on a ranch. So I was always going through the pastures looking for golf balls that I hit. Um, and when I got to college, I bought my first set of good clubs. And because I had my first credit card. And so I bought a set of actually Golden Bears. There wasn't much made out of, getting fitted in those days like that. You bought pretty much everything right off the rack. And I bought a club and a bag. I was living in Los Angeles, going to school at the time, and bought those and started playing a little more when I could. Um, and then after I graduated from school and started working, and then I actually had time to be able to afford to go play more, um, and do that. I think probably if I was to look back on it, I would say, I probably should have at least gone to some clinics or something at that point. Because I played with some guys that were pretty good sticks, usually shot in the low 80s. They did. I didn't. Um, and I think that back then, if I'd have got tuned up on a few things, I'd have probably been better off as far as scoring. The other thing I think was most important is people don't want to particularly hear me, you know, drabble on here, if that's a word, but you have to learn to play the game too. It's more than just going out and making contact with the ball. If you've got that, I think you've got a very good start. but looking at the course, looking at the hole, how am I going to get from point A to the ultimate goal here to the green so I can putt? And I didn't know any of that. I would just hit it, go find it, and hit it again, and was having a ball doing it, Ryan. But I probably could have shaved 20,000 strokes off my scorecards over the
Yeah.
years if I'd have had a little direction that way. Now later on in life, I did that, and that has helped a lot. But if I was to look back, I would say, yeah, that and working on the short game, because I never had the yips. I just couldn't flat do it for a long
Mm-hmm.
time, because I'd walk up there and I would either send it sailing across, the green, and or buried it further in the bunker, or all those really fun things that we have to deal with. And I just had to
Well,
learn to swing a little easier and pay attention to what I was doing.
well, I think to that point, just real quick, Jeff, and then I'll be quiet. But
No, no, that's
um,
fine.
I what you described there, I think a lot of people go through in not learning how to play the game, which is it kind of sounds silly because you're out there playing golf, so you're playing the game, but there's a lot to be said for grinding it out, and some would call it course management or whatnot, but
Yeah,
I think the best thing somebody could do for a lifelong participation in golf is to play on the high school golf team.
right,
And the reason I think I say that is if you're out there with five guys and your team is depending on you to shoot the lowest score possible, even if that's going to be a 90, for example, you know, five beats six, six beats seven. So for your teammates, you're trying to get the lowest score. And I think that's where you actually learn, even though it's an individual game, having the others depend on you. I think that's where so much of growing within the game itself takes place, is having those other people depend on you. So, even though this putt's for bogey or it's for a six, the lowest score possible for your team. I think that's just. I think there's a lot to learn that you can take forward with
oh
the
yeah,
game.
oh yeah, I would agree. I mean, because and I was very typical. You would go out and I would watch golf on TV, and if I saw Golf Digest or Golf Magazine or one of those, and I would read those articles, and I would try to emulate that. And then once in a while, you would hit that magic shot with a 3 iron that would go, 185 yards straight down the middle of the fairway. And you would go, wow, this is great. Of course, your
I
next
got it.
50, yeah, I got it. And then your next 15 shots, not so much. But the point is, you get that magical feeling. Everything comes together, and it makes a different sound. I remember this, and then we'll move on to something else. But I remember this. I was playing in Scottsdale. This would have been back in the mid 70s, and I was a kid, and I had my clubs, and I was playing with a group of guys. We all played about the same way, and my boss at the time, and I was behind them by about 10 yards, and they got out of the way for me to hit, it was a 3 iron, and I sent that thing sailing. It must have gone 90 feet in the air and just took off. And they all of them turned around and looked at me, and they said, "What the hell was that?" And that's when I knew I was hooked on the game for good, because every round, pretty much, you get one shot like that if you're just the average Joe American golfer, and you make that connection, and it sails off and it makes that noise, and it lands where you want it to land, and it does all that. It's kind of like Michael Corleone in The Godfather, the third one, when he goes, "Every time I think I was out, they just pulled me back in." So
Yep.
that was it. That was it.
That was your moment that got you hooked. That's interesting. I think everybody has one moment that they could draw to when they, they can participate and play golf for X number of years, but they can, I think most people could probably recall one moment that when
Yeah.
they know that they got hooked. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. And I remember that. And I was hung over like a champ from the New Year's party the night before.
Love it.
And I didn't feel very well, so I was very relaxed. You know,
Perfect.
I was doing
Yep.
that. Okay, let's Ryan, let's jump into a couple other things here that I overlooked in the regular show. Not only do you have the tees behind you, but you've got a design company that works with the tees and clothing. And then you've got some kind of a standard line too. Tell us about that, please.
Yeah, so at Links and Leisure, we kind of have three components to the overall company. We have our house brand tees, which you see some of them behind me here. So those are available on the website, and those are just our private designs, our tongue in cheek slogans, and hopefully thought provoking. And then also we have, which I'm very proud of, and this kind of goes back to the 25-year mark that we talked about earlier. When I was originally thinking about these vintage golf t-shirts, I also had the idea that, in my opinion, a good t-shirt should cost $20. It's just a
Yeah,
$20 t-shirt. I think that was a fair price. And that was my thought 20 years ago. Let's make these things awesome, good quality, but it should be $20, so just about everybody can afford it. Here we are 25 years later. I still think that t-shirt should cost $25, and call me crazy, but it took a long time to be able to figure out how to do that, but we were able to do it. So we started a t-shirt of the month subscription service. We call it the T-shirt Club. So it's a subscription service, just like you would probably think. But every month, if you're signed up for the membership, you get a different golf course T-shirt from around the country. So whether it's it could be a dog track, it could be a public, a resort, a high-end private. You never know what you're going to get. But for $24.99, the $4.99 is not us. If you're thinking, you said $20, the $4.99 is not us. That gets it to you. But every month you get a nice, cool design from a different golf course from around the country. And so far that's been going really well. Those members that do have it, they get excited every month to see what they're going to pull out of the
cool.
package. And so that I'm real proud of that we're able to kind of hit that initial price tag that I had wanted to all those years ago. So I really take a lot of pride in that. And then the other part of our business, and this is for our business to business customers, but we actually created an online design studio where the golf professional, the merchandiser, the buyer, even the assistants, whoever may be involved in the buying process, but they can actually go on to the design studio and design their own t-shirts, even without having a background in graphic design. So we did the heavy lifting for them. We put the parameters up so they're able to go in there and control the overall output of their design, which the clubs have a lot of fun doing. And what we've seen so far is, they may have 10 golf staff employees build out a different design, and then they may vote on which one they like the best as far as
Sure.
which design they want to bring in. But that's one of the things that I noticed early on with the custom stuff is that everybody wanted to design their own shirt, and I don't blame them. I have a great time doing it as well. But when you get that back and forth, it tends to muddy the water a little bit. So we just decided, let's create the tools for these guys and gals to design their own shirt. Why should we have all the fun? So that vintage design studio is also something that we're very proud of, and it allows them to take ownership in the design, have fun doing it, and order as needed. So it's not a hard sale from us towards them. So again, it's another something that we're very, very proud of as well.
Man, you got a lot of stuff going on, Ryan. A lot of stuff.
We do.
Yeah. Very cool. Ryan McCray, folks, president of Links and Leisure, and that's linksandleisure.com. And you can find all the things Ryan was just talking about on there. And you can email him directly, Ryan at linksandleisure.com. And I want to thank you for spending the time with us. I'm really glad I ran into you at the golf show.
Me too, Jeff. Me too. This has been fantastic. Hopefully, I haven't come across as too much of a hacker on your show here.
No,
You've
no,
been
no.
you've been great, but not too much experience in this. I just make golf T-shirts, Jeff. That's all, that's all I do. But no, I'm glad that we were able to do this as well. And hopefully your listeners got a chuckle out of some of the points. Hopefully they were able to kind of connect on some of the interpersonal things that about the game and whatnot that we've talked about as well. So I'm thankful that you found the time for me.
It's not a problem. Ryan McCray, folks, like I said, linksandleisure.com. We will be back next week with more Grilling at the Green. I guarantee it. Until then, go out, play some golf, have some fun, and most of all, be kind. Take care, everybody.